Welcome to video lecture on management and entrepreneurship for IT industry. In this session, I'll discuss the concept of evolution of management. The evolution of management thought can be studied in three parts as follows. Early classical approaches, represented by scientific management, administrative management, and bureaucracy. Neoclassical approaches, represented by human relations approach and behavioral approach. Modern approaches, represented by quantitative approach, system approach, and contingency approach. The contribution made by all these approaches to management serve as a foundation for modern management. They make it easy for us to decide what we must to do function most effectively as managers. Scientific management methods called for optimizing the way that tasks were performed and simplifying the task enough so that workers could be trained to perform their specialized sequence of motions in the one best way. Scientific management started gaining momentum during the evolution of industrial activity in Europe during the late 19th century. The fundamental objective of scientific management was to find better ways of improving the productivity in factories. Frederick Winslow Taylor, an American mechanical engineer, is called the father of scientific management. His book, The Principle of Scientific Management, was published in 1911 and is regarded as a cornerstone of management thought. He is famous for his stopwatch time studies, in which he measured the time taken by workers in performing various parts of the task. Taylor concluded that scientific management involves a complete mental revolution on the part of both workers and management. Without this mental revolution, scientific management does not exist. Five principles of scientific management, as propounded by Taylor, are time and motion study, differential payment, drastic recognition or supervision, scientific recruitment and training, intimate, friendly cooperation between the management and worker. Time and motion study. In order to increase organizational efficiency, the rule of thumb method should be substituted by the methods developed through scientific analysis of work. According to Taylor, even a small production activity like loading iron sheets into box cars can be scientifically planned. This will help in saving time as well as human energy. Decisions should be based on scientific inquiry with cause and effect relationship. This principle is concerned with selecting the best way of performing a job through the application of scientific analysis and not by intuition or hit and trial methods. The work assigned to any employee should be observed and analyzed with respect to each element or part thereof and the time involved therein so as to decide the best way of performing that work and to determine the standard output for same. Differential payment. Taylor introduced a new payment plan called differential piecework in which he linked incentives with production. Under this plan, a worker received low piece rate if he produced the standard number of pieces and high rate if he surpassed the standard. Taylor thought that the attraction of high piece rate would motivate workers to increase the production. Drastic reorganization of supervision. Taylor suggested two new concepts, that is, separation of planning and doing and functional foremanship. In those days, each worker used to plan his own work. The worker himself used to select his tools and decide the order in which the operations were to be performed. The foreman simply told the worker what jobs to perform, not how to do them. Taylor suggested that the work should be planned by a foreman and not by the worker. Further, he said that there should be as many foremen as there are special functions involved in doing a job, and each of these foremen should give orders to worker on his specialty. Scientific recruitment and training. Taylor emphasized the need for scientific selection and development of the worker. He said that the management should develop and train every worker to bring out his best faculties and to enable him to do a higher or more interesting and more profitable class of work than he has done in the past. Intimate friendly cooperation between management and worker. Taylor emphasized that there should be complete harmony between the worker and the management, since if there is any conflict between the two, it will not be beneficial either for the worker or the management. Both management and the worker should realize the importance of each other in order to achieve the state. Taylor suggested complete mental revolution on the part of both management and worker. It means that there should be complete change in attitude and outlook of workers and management towards each other. It should always be kept in mind that prosperity of employer cannot exist for a long time unless it is accompanied by the prosperity of the employees of that organization and vice versa. Contributions of Taylor's scientific management. He demonstrated the importance of compensation for performance, which increased the production and also motivated the worker. He initiated the careful study of tasks and jobs. He demonstrated the importance of personnel and their training. Limitations of Taylor's scientific management. He did not appreciate social context of work and higher needs of workers, did not acknowledge variance among individuals, tended to regard workers as uniform and ignored their ideas. Administrative management. While scientific management had a micro focus upon the workers, the tasks performed by them, and increasing the worker productivity, a general administrative management had a macro focus upon the organization as a whole. That is, administrative management focuses on organization rather than the individual. Administrative management delineated the management functions of planning, organizing, commanding, controlling, and coordinating. Henry Foyle is called father of administrative management. He presented 14 principles of management as general guides to management process and management practice. Henry Foyle's managerial functions of planning, leading, organizing, and controlling are routinely used in modern organizations. 14 general principles of management are division of labor, authority, discipline, unity of command, unity of direction, subordination of individual interest, remuneration, centralization, scalar chain, order, equality, stability, and tenure of staff, initiative, spirit de corps. Division of work or division of labor. Division of work in the management process produces more and better work with the same effort. This is the principle of specialization which according to Foyle applies to all kind of work, managerial as well as technical. It helps a person to acquire an ability and accuracy with which he can do more and better work with the same effort. Authority and responsibility are related. Foyle held that authority flows from responsibility. Manager who exercise authority over others should assume responsibility for decision as well as for result. He regarded authority as a corollary of responsibility. Authority is official as well as personal. Official authority is derived from the manager's position in the organizational hierarchy, and personal authority is compounded of intelligence, experience, moral worth, and past service. Discipline. Discipline is absolutely essential for smooth running of business. By discipline, we mean the obedience to authority, observance of rules of service and norms of performance, respect for agreements, sincere effort for completing the given job, respect for supervisor or superior, etc. The best means of maintaining discipline are good supervisor at all levels, clear and fair agreement between the employees and the employer, judicious application of penalties. This principle requires that each employee should receive instruction about a particular work from one superior only. Foyle believed that if any employee was to report to more than one superior, he would be confused due to conflict in instruction, and also it would be difficult to pinpoint responsibility to him. Unity of direction. It means that there should be complete identity between individual and organizational goals on the one hand and between departmental goals and the others. They should not pull in different directions. Subordination of individual interest to general interest. In a business concern, an individual is always interested in maximizing his own satisfaction through more money, recognition, status, etc. This is very often against the general interest, which lies in maximizing production. Hence, the need to subordinate the individual interest to general interest. Remuneration paid to the personnel of the firm should be fair. It should be based on general business condition, cost of living, productivity of concerned employees, and the capacity of the firm to pay. Fair remuneration increases workers' efficiency and morale and fosters good relation between management and the worker. Centralization. If subordinates are given more role and importance in management, the organization of the firm, it is decentralized. The management must decide the degree of centralization or decentralization of the authority on the basis of nature of circumstances, size of the undertaking, the type of activities, and the nature of organizational structure. Scalar chain means the hierarchy of authority from the highest executive to the lowest one for the purpose of communication. It states superior subordinate relationship and the authority of superior in relation to subordinates at various levels. As per this principle, the orders or communication should pass through a proper channel of authority along the scalar chain. But in case there is need for swift action, the proper channels of authority may be short circuited by making direct contact with the concerned authority. Order. To put things in an order needs effort. Disorder does not need any effort. It involves by itself. Management should obtain order line in work through suitable organization of men and materials. The principle of right place for everything and every man should be observed by management. Equity. Equity means equality or fair treatment. Equity results from a combination of kindness and justice. Employees expect management to be equally just to everybody. It requires manager to be free from all personal likes or dislikes. Stability of tenure of personnel. In order to motivate workers to do more and better work, it is necessary that they should be assured security of job by management. If they have fear of insecurity of job, their morale will be low and they cannot give more and better work. Initiative means freedom to think out and execute a plan. The zeal and energy of employees are augmented by initiative. Innovation, which is the hallmark of technological progress, is possible only where the employees are encouraged to take initiative. Spirit de corps. This means team spirit. Since union is strength, the management should create team spirit among the employees only when all the personnel pull together as a team, there is scope for realizing the objective of the concern. Foyer's principle met with widespread acceptance among writers on management and among managers themselves. So, the contribution of administrative management is a new management process school came into existence. Limitations of administrative management are It leads to formation of small groups. It results in dissatisfaction of workers. These principles result on to formation of mechanistic organizational structure. Bureaucratic management focuses on the overall organizational system and is based upon firm rules, policies, and procedure, a fixed hierarchy, and a clear division of labor. Max Weber, a German sociologist, is known as father of bureaucracy. He made a study of different types of business, government organization, and distinguished three basic types of administration in them. One is lead oriented, traditional oriented, and bureaucratic. In leader oriented administration is one in which there is no delegation of management function. All employees serve as loyal subject of a leader. In traditional oriented administration, managerial positions are handed down for generation to generation. But in bureaucratic administration, delegation of management responsibilities is based on the person's demonstrated ability to hold the position. No person can claim a particular position either because of his loyalty to the leader or because of the position he has been traditionally held by members of his family. Conceptualized, the approach to management is referred to as a bureaucracy. The important features of bureaucratic administration are: there is insistence on the following standard of rules. There is a systematic division of work. Principle of hierarchy is followed. It is necessary for the individual to have knowledge of and training in the application of rules. Administrative acts and decisions and rules are recorded in writing. There is rational personal administration, that is, people are selected on the basis of their credential and merit and are paid according to their position in the hierarchy. Behavioral management movement started gaining momentum with two trust areas: human relations and organizational behavior. The major contribution of behavioral management are that it produces understanding concerning motivation, group dynamics, leadership, and other interpersonal processes in organization. Human relations. Human relations involve the understanding of human needs, human behavior, human conflict, and informal human relationship. Organizational behavior is the systematic study and careful application of knowledge about how people as individual and as a group act within an organization. Modern management approaches. The modern management movement builds upon the classical and behavioral movements by integrating the fundamental theories of management with contemporary approaches like quantitative, process, system, and contingency. The quantitative approach management has its roots in the development of mathematical and statistical techniques to solve military problems during Second World War. Quantitative approach is characterized by its use of mathematics, statistics, and their quantitative techniques for management, decision making, and problem solving. This approach has four basic characteristics: decision making, focus, measurable criteria, quantitative model, and computer. In management science, mathematical models are developed specifically to aid in decision making and problem solving. Operations management has its focus on application of management science to organization. As the name suggests, management information systems are communication systems designed to provide relevant information to the managers as and when they require. Linear programming for optimal allocation of resources, simulation models, inventory optimization models, scheduling theories, and game theory belong to the quantitative approach to management. The roots of strategic management can be traced back to game theory, in which various actions of competitor firms and the payoff related to different outcome combinations are analyzed to find the optimal strategy with highest expected payoff. Systems approach. A system consists of connected parts joined to form a whole in which the coordinated and combined effect of the subsystems creates synergy. There are two types of system: closed and open. Closed systems do not interact with external environment while open systems do interact with the external environment. In systems approach, management is considered as a system where the people, information, facilities, equipment, machinery, materials, supplies and finance are considered as the input to the system, and transformation through application of workforce, expertise and technology is considered as processing, and the product, services, profits and losses, customer satisfaction, ethical behavior, social responsibility are considered as the output of the management system, and they are connected to provide the feedback from input to output as well as from output to processing and processing to input. The diagram indicates the management as system approach. A system is powerful collection of people, objects and procedure for operating within an environment so as to achieve a predetermined objective. The following are the key concepts of systems approach. A system is a set of interdependent parts. An organization is also a system composed of four independent parts, namely task, structure, people, and technology. The task subsystem refers to the main purpose, the reason for of the organization. The structure refers to the formal division of authority and responsibility, communication channel, and workflow. The people subsystem refers to the employees with their motives, attitudes, and values, and the informal organization. The technology subsystem refers to tools, equipment, as well as technique which are used by the organization to perform the task. A system can be either open or closed. An open system is one which interacts with its environment. A closed system is one which is independent of the environment. The classical approaches regarded organization as closed system, but organizational is a open system because the content are dependent upon their external environmental factors for information, material, and energy. The input of a business organization are raw material, power, finance, equipment, human effort, technology, information about market, new product, government policies, etc. The organization changes these inputs to output of goods, services, and satisfaction. This transformation process is known as throughput. So, organization is a open system. Every system has a boundary. Boundaries can be more clearly observed and therefore more precisely defined where they are physical. Organizations, being social systems, do not have clearly observable boundaries. Contribution of systems approach is it provides a new paradigm for the study of all organizations. It views an organization as an open system. This leads to one of the concept of equifinality. Every organization can accomplish its objective with varying input and internal activities. Limitations of system approach: it is very complicated to understand and expensive to follow. Contingency approach: according to contingency approach, there is no one best organization structure or the way of doing things under all conditions. Structures and techniques which are highly effective in one situation may not work in the other situation. Accordingly, the contingency approach suggests that the task of manager is to identify which structure technique will in a particular situation best contribute to the attainment of management goal. Manager have therefore to develop a sort of situational sensitivity and practical selectivity. Contingency approach is also called as situational management. which suggests that there are many situational factors which make a business problem different from others, and hence a unique approach to problem solving or decision making by manager is required rather than a generic approach. This situation factor can be external environmental factors or technology or organizational characteristics or characteristics of the manager, characteristics of subordinates, etc. Contingency approach is also called if-then approach. This view of management holds that particular management techniques are appropriate for particular type of situation. If certain situational factor exists, then certain organizational and managerial variables are most appropriate. Example for contingency perspective management approach. John Woodward discovered that a particular management style is affected by the organization's technology. Woodward identified and described three different types of technology: small batch technology, mass production technology, and continuous process technology, and the management taught for each technology is different. Summary of this particular session is the history of management can be divided into three periods: early, neoclassical, and modern. The early period consists of three approaches, that is scientific management, administrative management, and bureaucracy. Neoclassical period consists of human relations and behavioral approaches. Modern period consists of quantitative, system, and contingency approaches. Each one of the approaches has made distinct contribution to management theory.